Beloved soul, stop for a moment. Something in the unseen has been leaning toward your life, brushing against your spirit, trying to tell you a secret you've been too exhausted to hear. And when you saw the title of this message, something inside you tightened, didn't it? Because deep down, you sensed it. You passed a test you didn't even know you were taking, a test most people fail. Listen to me. Heaven watched you. In the moments when you felt overlooked, in the nights when you cried quietly so no one would hear, in the days when you kept showing up even though your strength was fraying at the edges. Chosen one. You didn't just survive those moments. You revealed your heart, and the Most High took notice. There is a holy reason you're here right now, at this exact breath. This is a divine appointment, not a coincidence. Your spirit brought you here before your mind even understood why. Hear this. The trial you thought was just life being unfair was actually a proving ground, a refinement, a spiritual assessment wrapped inside ordinary frustration. And while you assumed nothing was happening, heaven was watching how you moved through pressure, how you handled silence, how you carried yourself when no one applauded. Does that sound familiar? You weren't perfect, but you were faithful. You didn't lash out even when you were provoked. You didn't retaliate even when someone quietly tried to wound you. You didn't abandon your integrity even when you felt unseen. And that restraint, that purity, that steady heart became the evidence heaven needed. Chosen one, God is rewarding you, not someday, but now. Isaiah 43:19 says, Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? And the truth is, you've been sensing something shifting around you without knowing why. The atmosphere feels strange. Your emotions feel unsettled. Your spirit feels stirred. It's because the reward is already unfolding in the unseen. The breakthrough season you prayed for is already pressing its way toward you. But stay with me, because what you're about to hear next will explain why the test was given to you, what you unlocked by passing it, and the astonishing reward heaven has already released into your path. And before we go further, if this word is already resonating in your spirit, take a moment and subscribe, not for me, but because staying connected to prophetic clarity protects your steps in seasons like this. Now breathe, because the revelation is only beginning. Because the revelation is only beginning. And what rises next in your spirit is not imagination, chosen one, but recognition. Something in you remembers the weight of that unseen test you walked through. You didn't know heaven was evaluating your heart, but your soul felt the pressure of it. The silent kind. The kind that settles in your chest late at night when the world is quiet and your thoughts get loud. You've carried wounds no one ever apologized for. You've endured betrayals you never told a single soul about. You've smiled through exhaustion because you didn't want anyone to worry. And yet, beneath that quiet strength, you've been wondering something you rarely admit. Why does it feel like I'm always being tested? Listen, you weren't imagining it. There were moments when the spiritual warfare around your life intensified so sharply that you felt it physically. A tightening in your jaw, a heaviness behind your eyes, that strange pressure in your spirit that made you inhale deeper than usual, as if your soul needed more air than your lungs could hold. Does that sound familiar? You kept showing kindness to people who didn't value you. You kept giving grace to people who took advantage of your silence. And heaven saw every moment you bit your tongue instead of striking back. This was the test, not a test of knowledge, but a test of character, a test of restraint, a test of heart posture under pressure. Most people fail this test because they react. You didn't. You endured. But endurance came with a price, didn't it? A quiet, invisible ache that sat in your soul like unanswered prayer. There were nights when you felt destiny delay pressing against your hopes, and you questioned whether God had forgotten you. You felt stuck, suspended between who you used to be and who you were called to become. You worried that maybe you had taken a wrong turn, missed the breakthrough timing, or somehow sabotaged your own path without realizing it. And then there were the financial blockages, the unexpected expenses, the opportunities that slipped through your fingers, the promises that dried up before they ever manifested. At one point, you whispered to yourself, asterisk, why does everything feel harder for me? Asterisk, you didn't know the test wasn't exposing your weakness, it was revealing your strength. A strength you forgot you had. But the deeper struggle wasn't the circumstances. It was the loneliness inside them. You stood in rooms full of people and still felt unseen. You helped others and went home feeling empty. You encouraged everyone else while privately wrestling with doubts you didn't dare voice out loud. There's a wound you carry that few know about. A disappointment that shaped you more than you admit. A betrayal that shifted the way you love, trust, and hope. Someone you believed in failed you. Someone you protected misjudged you. Someone you held close treated your heart like it was optional. And yet, you kept your integrity. You kept your compassion. You kept choosing light even when shadows followed you. That was the test, Dot, and every time you resisted the urge to retaliate, every time you stayed soft instead of becoming hardened, every time you chose patience when anger would have been easier, you were passing an exam heaven never told you you were taking. But beneath your patience lived a private ache, a quiet question you've asked God in the privacy of your mind, never with your lips, asterisk if I'm doing everything right. Why does it still feel like my life is moving in slow motion? Why do I feel delayed, restrained, held back by something I can't name? Asterisk because, chosen one, you weren't being delayed. You were being measured. You were being weighed on scales not of punishment, but of destiny. Every moment of restraint, every silent victory, every unseen act of goodness, they were all shifting something in the spirit, preparing something, aligning something. And while you walked through these hidden trials feeling as if nothing was changing, the truth is something was building, a divine reversal forming around you. A breakthrough that required proof of your character before it could be released. An elevation that demanded a heart purified through endurance. And now the heavens are moving. Now the reward is unfolding. But before you receive what's coming, you must understand the real reason God tested you. The exact moment you passed, and the staggering blessing that activated when you did. Because, chosen one, what heaven is about to reveal next will explain everything that confused you, everything that broke you, and everything that is about to lift you into a realm you never knew you. We're being prepared for Dot, and it begins with the truth about the person who stood closest to you in this season and never even realized they were part of the test. For many of you, that test wore a familiar face. It looked like family. It sounded like home. You've known since you were young that something about you did not fit in the environment you were born into. You loved them. You still do. But if you're honest, you often felt like the odd puzzle piece in a box that was never cut for your shape. You were the one who asked hard questions at the dinner table. The one who noticed what everyone tried to ignore. The one who spoke truth and then watched the room go heavy and quiet. They called you dramatic, too sensitive, too much, when you were just trying to be honest. You learned early that your voice carried a different frequency. You could sense things no one wanted to name. You picked up on tension before arguments happened. You felt the unspoken pain under people's jokes. You saw the cracks in the family image long before anyone was willing to admit they were there. And instead of being thanked for that sensitivity, you were labeled the problem, the rebel, the black sheep. Do you feel that sting in your chest when you remember being blamed for ruining the mood? When all you did was ask why everyone was pretending? That's not just memory. That's a wound that never fully healed. They told you to stop overthinking, to just let it go, to stop making everything spiritual. But what they called overthinking was often the Holy Spirit tugging at your discernment. What they dismissed as moodiness was the early evidence of your prophetic wiring, your destiny alignment, your calling to break generational patterns they had grown comfortable with. You were carrying a different blueprint, and it cost you. You learned to dim your light so they wouldn't be uncomfortable. You held back your opinions so you wouldn't get attacked. You shrank your dreams so no one would accuse you of being prideful. Your body remembers it. That knot in your stomach when certain relatives walk into the room. That automatic urge to scan the atmosphere, to calculate every word before you speak. Your nervous system has been on guard for years, trained to expect misunderstanding, to expect that if anything goes wrong, somehow it will be traced back to you. You got used to being the one pulled aside after family gatherings. Asterisk, you shouldn't have said that. You always start something. Why can't you just be normal? Asterisk, and secretly, there were nights you asked God, asterisk, if you chose me. Why does being chosen feel like being rejected? Asterisk, listen. That question shook heaven. Because what you didn't know is that the enemy recognized your role as the cycle breaker long before your family did. The spiritual warfare over your life intensified inside the very place that was supposed to be your safest refuge, not because you are cursed, but because you were born to confront the generational curse, to end the quiet agreement with dysfunction, to refuse the silence that protected trauma instead of healing it. So they called you the black sheep. But in the courts of heaven, you were being marked as the firstborn of a new line. And that misunderstanding, that constant accusation, was part of the test. Would you harden and become bitter? Or would you stay soft enough for God to still flow through you? Would you turn your back on them completely? Or would you let God teach you boundaries without losing your compassion? You wrestled with it alone. You rehearsed conversations in your mind you never got to have. You tried again and again to explain your heart, only to feel like you were speaking a language no one else bothered to learn. If any of that is piercing you right now, I want you to do something bold. In the comments, quietly write, asterisk, I passed the hidden family test. Not for me. Asterisk, as a way of sealing what heaven already knows about you. As a way of saying, asterisk, God, I agree with the verdict you made about my heart. Asterisk, because even when they misunderstood you, heaven did not. And that misunderstanding didn't just stay inside the house, did it? It followed you into the way you began to move through the world, into the way you handled friendships, into the way you walked straight into a season that felt like you disappeared on purpose. There came a point where the noise became too much, the opinions, the constant explaining, the feeling of being observed but never truly seen. So you started pulling back, not loudly, but quietly. You stopped replying right away. You stopped posting as much. Certain group chats went silent on your end. You thought, asterisk, I just need a break from people. Asterisk, but it was deeper than that. It was as if an invisible hand started canceling plans for you. People you were once close to drifted for no clear reason. Invitations slowed down. Environments that used to feel fun started to feel suffocating. Songs you used to love suddenly sounded empty. The shows you binged for comfort started to feel like static. The parties, the gatherings, the constant scrolling, it all started to taste like cardboard. You thought you were falling into depression, but something holier was happening. God was pulling you into what I call the cocoon, the holy hermit phase. You didn't have language for it. You just knew your soul was tired of performing, exhausted from pretending you were okay, tired of laughing at jokes that didn't touch your spirit. So one day, almost without thinking, you stayed home. Then you did it again and again. Your phone lit up, and you turned it over instead of answering. You stared at social media and felt like a ghost watching everyone else live. You sat in your room and felt that strange mix of relief and guilt all at once. There were days you woke up and felt a heavy blanket of silence around you. No urgent texts. No one needing you urgently. No emotional fires to put out. And instead of feeling free, you felt empty. Asterisk, did everyone forget about me? Did I do something wrong? Why do I feel abandoned? Asterisk, but listen closely. You were not abandoned. You were being hidden. Heaven was tucking you away, not as punishment, but as protection. Some of the connections you were crying over were actually low-frequency attachments, blocking your destiny alignment. Some of the environments you missed were quietly feeding your insecurity and spiritual fatigue. In that hermit phase, God began rearranging your inner world. He started exposing the thought patterns that kept you in cycles of people-pleasing. He started nudging you to confront questions you had outrun for years. Questions about who you really are, what you really want, what abundance and a generational wealth mindset truly mean for you beyond just paying bills and surviving. Your body felt it as withdrawal. Your soul felt it as detox. There were nights you sat on the edge of your bed with your phone in your hand, hovering over old contacts, feeling that urge to reach out to someone you knew wasn't good for you just to fill the silence. That was a spiritual warfare moment, a test at the level of your habits. Would you run back to the familiar pain, or would you let God hold you in the unfamiliar quiet? Every time you chose the quiet, you didn't know you were passing another part of the exam. The one that decides whether you are ready for new relationships, for higher levels of influence, for destiny connections that won't crumble under pressure. Because what God is preparing to entrust to you in this breakthrough timing, the divine intervention He is orchestrating in your finances, in your purpose, in your emotional healing, it requires someone who is no longer addicted to noise. Someone who can hear Him when He whispers. Someone who no longer confuses chaos with connection. So the hermit season deepened. Your sleep changed. Your appetite shifted. Your desires started to feel strange to you. Things that used to thrill you suddenly felt small. You sensed there was more, but you couldn't name it yet. You felt like you were standing in a hallway with every old door closed and no new door visible yet. That hallway was the cocoon, the in-between, the place where caterpillars dissolve before they ever fly. And while you sat in that in-between, judging yourself, calling yourself lazy, calling yourself unmotivated, thinking you had failed, heaven was watching in awe. Because you were not decaying, you were transforming. Your old identity, tied to constant approval and over-functioning, was being dissolved so a new structure could be built. The kind of structure that can carry promotion, that can stand under wealth, influence, and spiritual authority without collapsing.